you what you need. It's about what you need. Yo, I'm giving you the truth. I don't care how much you spit from the booth. Your lifestyle's proof. This message is directly to you. What did it do? I don't care how much you flip verses without cursing. You can do this by rehearsing, but your life served no purpose. I'm talking to you. Cause you got swag and you rock shows. You got skills and you flip flows. Got a chain that swing and you keep that go. What do you do this for? You claim you're doing it for the Lord. Maybe you're doing it for the applause. You're supposed to be doing it for God. I'm Christian entertainment. There goes the vainess, saying that I'm shameless while Jesus go nameless. What good is a Christian if you ain't walking Christ-like? As a matter of fact, Christian stands for Christ-like. So what happens when they see you and don't see that Christ-life? And they be like, oh my gosh, she's supposed to be like. So this goes out to my favorite artist, my writer, my producer, my anybody that ever had to give them what they want, give them what they need. Give them what they need, then they won't be deceived. And if they be deceived, then they probably won't believe. Give them what they want, I'ma give you what you need. Give them what they want, give them what they need. Give them what they need, then they won't be deceived. And if they be deceived, then they probably won't believe. Give them what they want, and I'ma give you what you need. Give them what they want.
I got 150 different reasons why they telling me that they sanctified, but it's hard for me to believe them. Memorize the scriptures, they know chapters and the verses. Cut them off at the grocery store, and now they speak and they curse. It's similar. Oh heck, I'm just gonna say it's like the world reject the Great Commission, man. It make me wanna earn. What do you mean that you's a Christian, but you ain't no disciple? Are we part of the same kingdom? Are we reading the same Bible? Is Christian just a title?
Good evening, every night of Club Judah Returns. I will be your host. Had some personal obligations, so he is away right now with the C team today. But hey, I am sure it is still going to be. This is a wonderful night, but again, as always, let me just say that this is a Christian show. May get into topics that, well, younger ears. So keep that away in your minds today. Hey, we've had them here before. They are OGs of everything.
Hello, let me pop in for a moment. Pastor David, can you hear me? I am hearing a lot of distortion.
Let me
yes.
So go on and bring that.
Yes, and we got time to fix that and everything. Praise God for the freedom to do what we need. Yeah, let's see if that fixes it. Now you're making me distorted.
Can you hear me though?
No, we don't hear you.
Okay. 1 second.
Yeah. Go ahead. Okay. Well, that means you get to talk to me. But it is a honor and a privilege to be able to do Club Judah Returns without any type of restrictions, except, of course, we got to be holy. Amen. That's the thing. So Pastor David is going to figure it out because that's what he does back there. I know he was about to present our guest for today. If you've seen the flyers, you already know who it is. And if it looks like a familiar flyer, okay, yes, they have been on here before. But no, this is not going to be a repeat. Yes, this is going to be some new stuff. Let's see. Let's try to handle these technical difficulties. Let me see. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right,
now. I was out of fluff to say.
Hey, sorry about that. Was trying something and I guess it didn't work too well. But again, what I was saying, and maybe she just repeated that while I was out, we're bringing in some old favorites, some people that we love a great deal. But again, before we bring them on, let's bring their music on first. Let's go for it. Let's bring that countdown in.
Brown Monte Carlo, white wall tires, clean as a mug. Green shag rug, Buddha statue in the corner, bees hanging down the hallway. Needle always in the groove, spinning Motown. Memories like Polaroid pictures. Grandma was the curator. Every wall had faces and stories that told history. Never mind the plastic on couches we couldn't sit on, but the table was blessed. We eating bacon and grits on. This was the 70s and the 80s. We nappy-headed kids surviving off love and old remedies. Never knew we was poor. 2-3 jobs on the go. Mama made it look easy, cooking that spam like a pro. This ghetto love was unmistakable. Streets made us unbreakable. Everything shook around us, but faith made us unshakable. He kept that Monte Carlo sharp. I watched him wipe it down when he put that thing in park. Jesus was an afterthought. That car was like a god to him. Mama loved him, but she knew he wasn't good for us. When he shot that gun and bullet whistle past her head, Granddaddy said, try that again, son, I'll shoot you dead. These are the pictures of my life. Like a Polaroid. Like a Polaroid. Snapshot like a Polaroid.
My life, my life, my life, my life.
In black and white, snapshots capture the love, joy and pain. Sepia stained pictures like blood moving through veins and cuts needing them stitches.
New life, new life, new life, new life.
In vivid color, learning to love each other. Our differences make us stronger. We all bleed the same, so stop playing them games. Stop choosing to blame.
Brown skin Latina, mi casa es tu casa, familia. Wrestling with them outside forces, caught between cultures. Raised in the OC, trying to be myself in this new town. Daddy, forgive me for not appreciating all the things you did for us. From the ghetto to the suburbs, even language barriers, nothing seemed to stop you. Never heard you complain, but I know you had to go through some rain. You chose to keep your head up, had a strong wife that followed you. I kicked and screamed, but now I copy what I saw you do. I thank God for you. Mama was strong, caught between two worlds, trying to raise these girls. Trying to fit in, I attempt again.
But you're not one of them. You're a pretty Mexican.
That's what I was hearing. Never knew the damage to my soul. Running from these voices, taking back control. I love the skin I'm in and I ain't trying to hide it. But these are the pictures of my life, of my life. Like a Polaroid. Like a Polaroid. Snapshot like a Polaroid. Yeah. My life, my life, my life, my life.
In black and white, snapshots capture the love, joy and pain. Sepia stained pictures like blood moving through veins and cuts needing them stitches.
New life, new life, new life.
In vivid color, learning to love each other. Our differences make us stronger. We all bleed the same, so stop playing them games. Stop choosing to blame.
My life,
My life.
my life, my life, my life.
My life, my life.
Talking about the pictures of my life, the sepia colors of my life.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
My life,
My life.
my life, my life, my life. Talking about the pictures of my life,
The sepia.
colors of
My life. Yeah.
Oh, we all love the countdown. Well, welcome back, returning to
That's right.
to Club Judah Returns.
That's right.
We have Mr. and Mrs. Taylor.
Hey.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Always
What's
good to see you. Always good to
Always
see
good to
you.
be here.
But hey, let me just kind of jump right into this.
All right.
Because that's the first time I've heard that song and
Oh, yeah?
definitely seen it. That song is a journey lyrically and visually.
Yeah.
What message were you trying to give on that?
So in 2020, my mother passed away, and we were going through my childhood home, packing things up, and they'd lived at that house in Orange County for 40 years, where I grew up. And it was in a moment there that I just began to realize, my parents had sacrificed so much. My father grew up in Juarez, Mexico, which is like a really rough place to grow up. He was technically born in El Paso, so he was an American citizen, but he grew up in Juarez, Mexico. Was like right across the street from El Paso, if anybody knows that general area. But he had to grow up there because his father abandoned him, and so he grew up like with his siblings and mom, kind of dirt poor. But he was gifted in math, went to college at 15, came back to this country and said, "Me engineer, no English." But he was so good at what he did. He went from Juarez, Mexico, all the way to being able to raise us in Orange County. That's a huge leap. That's a humongous leap. And I just couldn't appreciate it as a child growing up there. I just took it for granted what we had. But as we were kind of going through their things and packing things up, I just had this sense of just love and respect and pride for we just wanted to honor. For my verse, I wanted to honor my parents by first saying sorry for not recognizing. My lyrics are, "Daddy, forgive me for not appreciating." I mean, I was kind of a brat. And then I also talk about what it was like to grow up in Orange County, being Mexican at the time that I grew up there, because it's a little bit more diverse now. But when I was growing up there, I'm pretty sure we were like one of maybe just a handful of Latino families living in Orange County in the 70s and 80s. And I used to hang out with my two best friends, who I'm still really good friends with today. They're Caucasian, blonde hair, blue eyes, and they would say things like I remember one time we were driving, and they were saying something negative about some of the farmers that were picking the strawberries, and I'm looking at them like hello, my peeps here, and they were like, "Oh, but you're not like them. You're a pretty Mexican," and that was a true story. And we used to hear stuff like that growing up in that era of time. And I just remember like not really having anything to say back, because it's like you're getting insulted and a compliment all at the same time. But those sort of things kind of played an impact on us growing up Mexican American in that era. It might be a little different now, but back then it was kind of rough because you're struggling to find your identity. I'm very proud to be Latina, but it was rough because I'm growing up in Orange County, surrounded by Caucasian people, sitting at the black table. Because and I'm just struggling to like figure out who I am. I still, feel like I don't really have like I just see myself as just whatever. I love all various different cultures, but that was my experience growing up in that era, in that place at that time, and we were just wanting to pay homage to our past.
Yes. Yeah.
Let
me say
I
something.
remember because I went to a predominantly white school for high school.
Mm.
I've had many conversations with people. I didn't know what microaggressions were then.
Yeah.
I didn't even know if that was a word back then.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because I found an IG account where that's all this woman does is she flips microaggressions. Oh man,
Wow.
it's amazing. It's amazing. But go on, Mr. Taylor, you're about to say something.
Yeah, I had to check that out. But yeah, I mean, just piggybacking off of what Teresa's saying, we have spent many years creating music that's been very Christ forward, right? And that we don't apologize for that. I think that there's room to make art as Christians that may be off of that a little bit, but still going in that direction. You'll notice when you listen to the song, it's like a couple of stories that we're telling. We really essentially are storytellers. If you listen to a lot of our music, we're always sharing our experiences, right? This song was a song that we wrote, like Teresa said, was to kind of remember where we came from, remembering where we came from, and then as we go forward, kind of seeing what God is doing and how He's directing us. God uses our lives and the experiences of our lives almost like a mosaic. Like you can look at a snapshot in time in your life, and it could have either been a very great time or a very negative time. But whatever it is, God uses it in the greater picture of how he is molding and shaping us. So, when I'm talking about in the song about how my stepdad shot at my mom and the bullet whistled right past her head, I remember that. I literally remember it. And I remember my grandfather, who was a very mild-mannered man. We lived directly across the street from my grandparents, and when that was going on, I remember him coming over to the house. I'm little, right? But he's coming over to the house and he's saying, don't do this. Don't do this to our daughter. And he continued to do things like that, my stepdad, that were not good things. And we left from that situation. It got better, but those things did happen, and they're in my life history.
Yeah.
Now I don't live from that because God has, redeemed me. I don't live from that, but it is part of the mosaic of how he has shaped and molded me.
And their memories, and we wanted to honor them, but also let them go. Like when we sold that house, I thought about keeping the key for a souvenir, but the Lord was like, release it completely to the next family that's going to live there. That house served you quite well for the time that it was meant to be yours, but now it's time to let it go and press on towards the future and pressing forward. And those are all monumental times in your life when there's dramatic change. But we always live life like it's the first day, or the last day of the world. Like we always feel like we've just begun. So,
well, I mean, but that's really cool because there's so many people that exist in today, but live in yesterday. And it's good to remind that those things are part of us, but they don't need to be us today.
Right.
And but the one thing I was just really, actually, it's a compliment, especially for you, Mr. Taylor. In those lyrics, from what I heard, it would have been easy to downgrade, especially the stepfather and all that. But I never heard you do that. Even in those circumstances, to me, you were still giving honor. Honor your father and mother.
Yeah. And he is. Listen, my stepfather is my youngest brother's father, for one, and we came up in the same household. And I've been on this journey, David, and I'm not going to go off into a tangent about it, but I've been on this journey where I'm wanted to know who my dad was, right? And so I wrote a lot of songs about forgiving my dad for not being in my life. And so the closest thing that I had to a dad when I was growing up was my grandfather, who was a very quiet man, not really available in the sense of, when the daddy comes home and, you're wrestling and not like that, but he was there and he provided and he showed me that he loved me. He was a presence. Right. And so I'm just now, I actually just recently found out, like in the last 9 months, who my actual biological dad is. And so you just like kind of scratched a little thing there I'm dealing with even right now, very currently. And we can maybe talk about that a little later on, but I do feel like, one of the things about my stepdad, and I know this is for somebody right now. One of the things about my stepdad is I now know, even more now, I know that he could not give me what he didn't have. He didn't have a lot. And so he was fumbling around in life himself. Right. And he was abusive to my mom. He was a bit abusive to us as well. In fact, he was the one who, after getting into an argument with my mom, ran back to my bedroom and sat me on his lap and said that I'm not your dad. And he did that not because he loved me and he wanted to tell me the truth. He did that because he was mad at my mom and he knew my mom didn't want him to tell me, especially like that.
Right.
And so he told me that in a time where it wasn't done out of love. And that kind of was like a body blow, a significant one to me. And I went off into like a space of numbness and what have you, and this desire to really kind of know who my dad was. And so when I'm rapping about this, I'm not necessarily trying to drag, my stepdad through the mud. What I'm trying to do is I'm just saying these are just some of the facts of what happened in my life. And people need to hear that, these events don't necessarily have to completely take you out. You can grow from them, even if they're, quite negative.
Yeah.
It's
a collection of memories.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it helped us to heal from some of those things and to, again, honor the past and heal, and then also press on towards the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's definitely important, because the events of our lives do shape us, but God can use anything to our benefit, because like you just said, that might be for somebody. Somebody need to hear, hey, he went through this, but look at him now.
Right.
They can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, why don't we get into this next song? Now, did you guys want to introduce it or anything, or?
Well, I think it's let me set it up a little bit. The song is entitled Who Dat? And the whole idea and meaning behind this song is really to just kind of set in stone from our vantage point who is sitting on the throne, who still sits on the throne, no matter what changes are going on in the world. And it also is a song about who is that, who has the audacity to still say that God sits on the throne, i.e., my wife and I, who have been navigating through the music game and just in life, as most of us have been, who have been redeemed, and the world is getting kind of more callous and more callous and more callous and more callous. And it may seem like
becoming like a culture of God himself.
Yeah, and it may seem like the song is gritty. So we're going back to the roots of like old school hip hop in this song. It's meant to kind of be a slap in the face to the things that are competing for our attention. The world is constantly trying to compete for our attention. So we wrote this song and we had fun doing this song. Theory Has It. Produced the beat. We had DJ Heat, who's actually been through Club Judah a few times. He's on the ones and twos.
I actually think, didn't we meet him at Club Judah?
We may have. And so we just got some brothers together, man, that know how to walk in this kind of hip hop, this kind of vibe. And so, it's definitely an exciting song for us.
All right, well, Taylor, let's go ahead and get into it. Pastor Colette.
DJ Heat on the ones and twos, my man. Busting through your mainframe, thought this was a new thing. Theology the same, we still rep his name. Sifting through the blur and the twisted up. The world wanna shut us up, but we gallop with that giddy up. MMT, back up in here. MMT, catch your elbow and make some room. MT, who that? Still keep it hip hop gritty. Old school on display, keep it tight like a fitty cap. snap back. Out the coffin like Black Drac, but the blood we own from the one who said he coming back. The King of Kings gonna be chilling on his throne. The big cat, Lion of the tribe of Judah. The King of Kings gonna be chilling on his throne. Y'all know who it is. Chilling on his throne. Who that?
Standing with your finger on the trigger, about to shake your fist at God, cause you kinda think you bigger.
Who that?
Got the nerve to sit up on his throne, feet dangling, got a stool, can't climb up on your own. The Lord dropped the microphone, said it was done, like a baton, flung the stars, earth and the sun, and they hung, hanging on nothing but words.
Yeah,
I'm absurd that you can't believe now that you're
You're
hurt.
rocking with the best, y'all. Heavy like a Glock on your chest. Holy Spirit make you holler. Yes, yes, y'all. Holler back, y'all. If you're rolling with the king on the throne, tilt the crown, gangsta lean. We breaking down every wall, trying to separate us. They say we aged out the system, but we still creating. They out here gyrating, dancing like they gon' live forever. But they cheddar gon' run out, their body gon' burn out. Who that?
Still take the Lord's name in vain. No respect for who he is and how his word don't change. Mock him every chance you get, cause really you be bitter. We keep it jumping like Tigger, but you stiff like rigor mortis. You the hare, we the tortoise. You think it's slow, but we steady on the ready. Poof like confetti. This ain't monkey one or monkey two off the Serengeti.
We rock steady, y'all. Who that? Live. Who that? Live. Who that? Live. We live and direct. Who that? Live and direct. Live and direct.
Put some respect on his head.
Live and direct. Direct. Who that? Trying to be the top breadwinner, new head spinner, young Bruce Jenner, pursuing everything except the only thing that matters. Tower of Babel ain't a big enough ladder. He made them all scatter, stirred them up like batter. Same thing today, you can hear the chatter. The world's still saying that they don't need God, but when you look in their eyes, you can see the facade. Cracking, can't hold up to the pressure. Depression, no answer to their most important questions. Like what's the meaning of life? What do I put my trust in? Are we all bowling pins, dodging fate and chasing ends? The great equalizer, settling accounts. Got more bounce than Roger Troutman. To the ounce, he owns the real estate. So the block you claiming ain't up for debate. We broken arrows, bows up, changing landscapes. The King of Kings gonna be chilling on his throne. The King of Kings gonna be chilling on his throne. The King of Kings gonna be chilling on his throne. Chilling on his throne. Chilling on his throne. Chilling on his throne.
Hold on for a second, because I'm kind of laughing. I'm laughing at myself. And let me explain why I'm laughing at myself. Because I actually had taken a quick listen to this song before.
Mm-hmm.
And I said a couple things to myself. One was, okay, they're doing something a little musically different on this one.
Mm-hmm.
But then I went, why did he bring in some other woman to spit on the verse? I don't understand.
Teresa!
I thought that was someone else.
Because I'm hearing this voice and I'm like, who is this person? Because look, in traditional Mr. and Mrs. Taylor,
Right.
one person's rapping,
Right.
one person's singing. So I just had to heard it, and it just my ear just would not allow me to accept.
Yeah.
So, but visually, I was like, I couldn't deny. I'm like, oh wow, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
This team got gritty at her old age.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
people
wait, is that the first time you've done it?
No, I've rapped before, but
Yeah.
I mean, people ask me all the time, like, how are you guys still able to create things? Like, you ever plan to retire? Like how do you keep it going? To be honest with you, it's because we keep discovering new gifts that we have that we didn't know we had before.
Yeah. So she's getting down on another song or so, but just like she's saying, I've been around hip hop ever since I can remember, right? She has as well, so she obviously, is able to navigate and it was good. It felt good to do something a little different.
I mean, I've always been kind of stuck on singing, but I feel like
well, come on, you can sing.
Right.
No, let me say that again.
This is a good lesson. But this is a good lesson to learn. I'm most known for singing, but there are other gifts that we possess that we will not discover if we limit ourselves to just one thing. We also limit God. I've discovered in the last several years, I mean, I have a knack for directing. I have a knack for teaching voice. I was very focused and kind of a specialist in regards to singing. Like that was my one groove, right? I didn't pay attention to nothing else, just singing. But I consider myself a vocal actor. We do various different things with our voice, whether it be like voiceover work, obviously, singing or worshiping God, and I can, if the song calls for, Miss Tita spit and flow, praise God, whatever the beat is telling us to do, we can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to just pass by the song too quickly, but you're kind of getting into something that I mentioned I wanted to ask you about. Mm-hmm. You guys have been in this a minute. What keeps you going?
Like I said, we just keep discovering things that happen to reside in us that God had planted there before the foundations of the earth, that we're just still learning new things every day that we can do and do together and do individually or just do at all. Period.
And I also think, sometimes you can look at people who do different types of things. They have certain types of gifts. And sometimes when I look at certain people do certain things, I'm amazed at how they do it, their work ethic. I'm amazed at how they do it, their work ethic, their drive, and their passion. And, obviously we know that God gives the gifts, right? And he doesn't take these gifts back, that he gives these gifts without repentance. And so, with that being said, although I sometimes stand in amazement at looking at other people do things that they're gifted at, I have come to the realization that at our age now, this is surely what we're supposed to be doing. And so I'm comfortable with it. Teresa's comfortable with it. You would hear, especially because of the genre of music, sometimes you would hear people say, well, when y'all going to stop doing this? Well, I'm not certain that we'll ever actually stop doing it.
That's like asking somebody whether they're going to stop being who they are. I mean, as long as there's breath in our nostrils and we have something on our heart to say, and God gives us the strength to do it, that's our plan, to just continue to stand. And
I also do think as well that, I feel like if maybe we didn't feel good about where we were creative. Now I'm just talking about just creatively.
Sure.
Because you ever heard the old thing, the adage about the young boy in the paper boat? He makes a paper boat because it rained outside, and he builds the boat, and he goes out and plays in a puddle with the boat, and he's having fun, and then the wind picks up, and water overtakes the little paper boat, and so he sits there for a second, and he says, "Okay, it's windy," so he then goes to get a kite, and he starts flying a kite, and that whole thing is to show. In ministry, really, if you're about the gospel, if I stop doing one thing, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop sharing the gospel of Christ. I just go on to whatever the other thing is.
You adapt.
So for us, I don't ever think that we would put the microphones down, but
he's been adding things to us.
Yeah.
I mean, early on in our ministry, we just wanted to rap and sing. And then before we knew it, at some point, somebody once said to us, pour into others everything you had to learn the hard way. We didn't even, we were just rapping and singing. And then we discovered we have gifts in pastoring and pastor teaching, that we had gifts in directing other teams to do things. Like I said, choir directing or teaching voice lessons, all those things that we were not setting out to try to do. We just sometimes the Lord would just throw us into a situation, and we found out we had a knack for it. So he's just been adding to us. And if I'm being honest, early on as a believer, when I was a baby believer, I do remember this one specific moment where I felt like the Lord was telling me to lay down my dreams at the altar. And I had a hard time with that because it was everything I ever wanted to be able to sing and spend my life doing that. And this was early on in my walk with God, where I'm just learning how to trust Him and not knowing how to trust Him completely, and not really having that life experience to be able to look back and see the faithfulness of God. And so I had a hard time with that. I sort of halfway laid it down at the altar, because I was like, why would you ask me to lay down my dream? Why would you do that? And now I'm realizing that's not what He was saying. I didn't know how to trust Him back then. I know how to trust Him now. What He was saying is, lay that down because I have so much more for you. I'm not saying you're not going to sing. I'm just saying you're going to sing, and you're going to teach, and you're going to rap, and you're going to disciple, and there's more that you're going to do. I have all these things in you, but if you're just hanging on to just this one thing, you're going to miss all those other things. So I now see how much I can trust God with my life, to know that the plans He has for me are greater than what I could ever dream of. I just didn't know that back then. And I had a hard time with that. But now I see that what He was saying was, it's not that I just didn't want you to sing. I just didn't want you to just only sing.
Yeah. And then, that somebody, old pastor friend of ours, I remember saying, encouraging us to walk in the fullness
of your calling.
And so I don't know.
I'm certain there are things we still haven't discovered.
I'm not certain if we understood what all that meant then, but surely as time has gone on, I believe that God has already got these things buried on the inside. And I'm getting this picture. You ever see War of the Worlds, the newer version with Tom Cruise? And if you remember, like the ships were already buried in the earth, and they actually came busting up out of the earth like they were there as man was building on top of it. And literally all of our life, God has already put the raw material on the inside of us, and we have to cultivate it. And so we're on this, we've been on this mission of cultivating. And then as we're cultivating certain gifts, other things are spilling out at the same time. We're saying, okay, let's add, we're adding and cultivating these things. And so it's been quite neat to see that and experience that in a way, in a way that we can really kind of see it.
I mean, we're also, one thing I didn't even mention in the mix of all that was we've also become, quite the business people, which is another element that we just did not see ourselves doing. We just wanted to write music and go out there and sing. We didn't want to have a whole company that we oversee and manage all of the business aspect of it and do all that. We didn't even have the college for that, but we actually manage a very lucrative business that we're able to create content to push the gospel, through these means of art. We have a whole team of artists that we oversee, and we just push out content, and we are managing it quite well. Literally learning everything as we go along, and we maybe had made some mistakes in the past, but we're also kind of good at it. Like we know how to and I'm certain there's things that we don't know yet. Yeah. But what we are managing, the reason why I think we're able to manage it is because we've been traveling around this world for a couple of decades now. We've learned what kind of works and what doesn't work. And someday I might be able to add, we wrote a book about it to the list of things to do. But we raised a family, and I use a lot of those simple elements to even run everything that we do in ministry with our assemblies, with our record label, with all those things. We run it like that because that's just how we know to do it.
Well, it's funny because what I'm hearing as you're talking, and I'm seeing the meme in my head, growth.
Progression, man. Yeah,
it's a lot of growth that has to have occurred for this. But Pastor Cliff probably popped in for a reason.
Yes, I did, and I know you guys were expecting it. Besides the hollering out for tea. Flashbacks to T. She killed it with that. I had to call. I had to. What was that?
Yeah, you popped right in and right out. That was funny.
But listen, I want to say this because I think this. I know this is for. I believe it's for you tailors, but I believe it's also for a lot of other people. God has gifted a lot of us with a lot of talents.
That's right.
He's put a lot. But here's the thing: I have a brother that is always telling me what I could have been.
Mm-hmm.
You could have been really big in the theater or on the screen. You could have been this, and to him, I'm not successful.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: what we have forgotten as Christians, truly, we've forgotten the only reason we exist is for His good pleasure. Only reason we have been manifested in this world is to do His will. We are for His good pleasure. He has plan and purpose. And here's the thing: He did not make us for awards.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
He didn't make us for adulation or to have our name lifted up. Hear what I'm telling you. He who wins souls is wise.
That's right.
And listen, give it up for Mr. and Mrs. Taylor. Soul winners.
Amen.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Ooh, we lost you.
I can hear it.
I can hear it.
Yeah. Do you hear what I'm saying? Taylors, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So Pastor David, that's you. But understand what I'm saying, because you need to, because sometimes we strive so hard to get the adulation or the
accolades and stuff.
Accolades, the commendations from even from our peers.
Right.
And listen to me, we gauge our relevance on how many followers we have.
That's right.
We
God self. Yep.
When we are called to follow one.
Right.
And we've forgotten that all of it is about, all the gifts that we've been given are for the edifying, the building up of the body of Christ.
That's right.
So to somebody who feels like, why didn't I get this? Whatever. Why didn't this happen for me? But are you winning souls for Christ? Are you representing Christ? And for me, that was who that was all about. To me, that's what I got from that. I'm just saying, I may not be as young as some people, but that's what I got. Who that? That's what I'm saying. And yes, I screamed for Mrs. Taylor because I said she killed that. And when I first heard the whole thing, I put up a whole man on fire. So I'll just pop out now. That's all.
Hold on, Maisha, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Cool. Yeah, my AirPods reconnected. I'm like, oh man. You know what? It's funny because what I was hearing through the conversation, especially about the different talents and everything else, that part of prayer of Jabez, expand my territory.
Yes.
And I kind of see that in you guys. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into it, but we were talking before about epic assemblies and how, especially now that you're doing them virtually, you're actually able to reach a whole lot more people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call it TMU assemblies now, but there's another thing that we never set out to do. We just found ourselves directing a national tour team that was going into high schools to present a high-end assembly where we would share our real-life testimonies, and that was kind of a way for us to creatively preach the gospel without preaching the gospel, because you can't really say certain things in public schools, but you can't deny somebody's testimony. And especially when you demand the attention of the audience with excellence. So we took a whole team out, and we're still doing assemblies. Again, never planned to do this like I said, we didn't know we had a knack for directing. We were just trying to do our own thing. But we found ourselves going out there with a team of young people and presenting this assembly. And what I love about the Lord is this is why the one good thing about getting older is you can really look back on the years and see how creative God is and how faithful He is. The assemblies actually are a means for us to expand our audience, even for the side of the MASH unit, which is our company, THA, the MASH unit. So the record label side of the MASH unit gets promoted when we go and do the assembly arm of the MASH unit. We're performing for thousands of students, and they're all going to our Instagrams for the music side of the MASH unit.
Yeah.
So look at God. I mean, I would have never thought to do that, but we're doing assemblies trying to encourage kids to stay off of drugs and make better choices, and but at the end of the day, they're welcome to come to our Instagrams, and that's where they get to hear songs like "Who Dat" and also the other artists that are under the MASH unit umbrella. They're going to all of their Instagrams too, and then we can continue those relationships and those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of on this line, obviously there's multiple ways of ministry in the gospel, but how do you think music and the arts, what impact has that had in communicating the gospel?
I think it's been a very very strong arm, when you can use art in order to communicate messages. And in particular, when it comes to, music is our lane, right? But I think, I'm starting to say this a little bit more about this thing called a God note or the God note. And the God note to me is the note that's in between the notes that you hear. And that note resonates and speaks to your spirit. So like when you're hearing certain types of music or things like that, I think that if you can hit that note. Now, on that point, a lot of us, in music and acting and whatever we do, poetry, spoken word, we there's a tendency for us to get caught up, and that we begin to think that we're more important than even than God. And we're just kind of talking about that when we were talking about, gaining followers and all that kind of thing. That if I can encourage Christians that are called into the community of the arts, the artist community, I at 17 years old, I moved out to California to pursue music. And Teresa grew up in the area. And so, it took a little bit of time for me to figure out, who I was in light of who God is. And when I came to that realization, and when Teresa came to that realization, we we started to kind of reinvent ourselves for the purpose of the kingdom. And I think that's when you can really start hitting the God note instead of the, creating music from a sonically that, you hope moves a lot of units. And that some of that is okay, because the more you do sell, the greater influence you have. But I think there's a balance in how what you're pursuing and how you pursue it. And it to me, it's become easier to understand that as I get older. The younger you are, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult because you're full of energy, you're full of zeal that doesn't have to be according to the Lord, but just full of zeal. And it sometimes takes a little bit of time. I'm not saying that.
I think I would have not even wanted that kind of influence when we were younger and not really patient and would sometimes just jump out of our skin over certain topics or whatever. But now that the Lord has, I mean, I'm not saying we've arrived at any place, but we do feel like we're a little bit more mature and settled, and our roots are deep in the ground. Now we don't mind having that influence because it's responsibility to have it. But we know that the more influence we have, the more we can talk about certain things with patience and loving kindness and not to win an argument, but just more helping the world to see God's perspective. And now I feel like the challenge is to, the world has the perspective is all, even in the church, it's a little messed up, and we hope that through the arts we can help people feel Jesus and see through his eyes and change the perspective of how he would view things on earth and his heart towards certain topics on earth. And I don't know any better way to do that than through the arts. Singing, I heard somebody say once, it's 10 times the prayer. You can really worship your way out of the world, out of a certain situation, and using poetry or I think it was a poet that actually helped change the perspective of back at 150 years ago about like how people saw slaves and how a poem can help a person see a human being as a human being, because that's what they are. And I hope to be able to talk about some of the tough topics about even things that are just tough to talk about right now, but as God looses us to do that, and in his season, we've learned how to be quiet when it's time to be quiet, and then also like speak up when it's time to speak up. But I know that my prayer is, with any amount of influence that he would give us, that we would just use that not to win arguments, but to help create an environment that can see God's perspective in all things.
Absolutely. So I think at the end of the day, we believe that art and the impact of art is powerful.
It's so powerful
on both ends, by the way.
Yeah.
Negative art that is not about the Lord and is anti-Christ. It, if we're going to be honest, it has a powerful sway in the world. And when the Bible talks about principalities and the different, like how we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, the devil and the other fallen angels are much more strategic than what we think. And even regionally, they operate in a certain way. When you read the book of Daniel, I think Daniel chapter 10, how the angel said he was caught up for 20-something days, trying to get this message to David, until Michael came and relieved him so that he could get the message to Daniel. But I think the Lord just peeled that canvas back so that we can get a glimpse of the war behind the war, like the real war that's being waged right now in communication, in things that we're seeing visually through every gate, the ear gate, the eye gate, our senses, we're being attacked on all sides. And so we really do have to have the full armor of God on. And then, I was making art that was not about the Lord before I got saved, and it wasn't good. I was so embarrassed about it, I couldn't even let my mom hear it, because I was embarrassed about what I was rapping about. It wasn't good stuff. And so I was part of that. We were part of that. And now to be outside of that, and now to have our eyes open, so that, being pulled out the matrix, for lack of a better word, so that we can see it for what it really is. It's a lot better. We have focus. We have a mission that's clear. We have the weaponry that's not carnal. And we understand what the rules of engagement are. I'm not saying that we do anything perfectly, but we understand what the rules of engagement are, and we know that Jesus is what we need.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Right. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but there's a couple things I want to kind of get to, and this is industry question, but it's also about ministry as well. We had talked earlier about, when I said, so is this going to be your new project? And I'm like, well, what do you call it? Because, I'm 53. I grew up with people dropping albums, and then it became dropping CDs.
Yeah.
And now it's, I don't even know what to call it. But like we were talking, and if you want to get into this,
yeah,
I'm used to sitting on an album for a while.
Yeah.
And letting it minister to me or just do whatever it's going to do. But everything is just dropping.
Yeah.
Like, so
yeah,
is that a stylistic thing now or what?
I don't think it see, the consumer, quite honestly, the consumer is, just like you said, is not consuming the material the same way. And I'm not even certain how much of it they're actually consuming. So it feels like we're just throwing stuff out there. I don't believe that that's exactly what it is. Meaning, if God has called us to do it, I don't think it goes out there and returns void. I think that it does accomplish what it's set forth to do. Mm-hmm. However, we're on a slow slide, okay? A very slow slide. And that slide is a distraction. It's just more distraction, more chaos. A deluge of anything isn't good. Like if we get it, we're in Tucson. If we get it during monsoon season, when it rains really hard and heavy for a long time, yeah, it's good ultimately to get water, but it causes a lot of damage.
Havoc, yeah.
It's a lot of stuff that happens in that heavy deluge. And so we're in a time where it's very fast food. It's very quick. I think that's an indication of the time that we're in. You know, I don't think it's just technological savvy or wokeness in the area of this techie stuff where you can just download it. That's what it is. It's some of this stuff is cool, but I think that it's costing us something, because I'm like you, I would get material and chew on it and then develop an appetite for the next thing that's coming. I mean, I'm still swallowing. I'm still trying to digest what I got, and you already trying to push something else into my, and so we don't come from that. We're not exactly doing that, but we're doing it more than what we were a few years ago. So me and my wife's purpose of putting out music, for one, is to still minister, still to reach. And a lot of our stuff, we actually are talking to the church in a lot of our music. It always has kind of been like that. But we think that it does something. It's doing something, but it is, I think, a slow slide to the author of Confusion, who's saying, yeah, just eat, just keep eating, and don't really work this stuff off. Don't really get on the treadmill. Don't really go out for a walk and work off what you eat, and just eat and just sit here and just consume and consume and consume. And I think that there's a cost to that, ultimately.
Now, I'm just going to say something.
What it is.
We could just be old, and we just don't do it that way. You know.
I mean, like back in the day, it was like, we would go out with our, product, and we called it, we slang some CDs. That was like our gravy money and stuff like that. We don't even think about that stuff anymore. To be honest with you, I'm kind of okay without having the distraction of it, but we just kind of, we put stuff out, and now it's all about, rather than having like people at the concert, it's really more about like whether or not your video goes viral and shared and stuff like that. And that's all right. I mean, if that's what it is, we're okay with kind of, we have to remind ourselves sometimes what it's not, though. Yeah. When you come from a certain era, you're like, you got to remind yourself what we're not doing, and just kind of like, just do it. Just do what you do.
and that gets back into adapting to the new thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me bring this up real quick, because now look, I will be honest. I don't even know exactly the ins and outs of this, but there's something about August 8th. You want to talk about that?
Okay.
So August 8th. Let's talk about it real briefly here. I'm gonna read you a couple of scriptures. 2 Kings chapter 13. I'm gonna start at verse 18. It says, "Then he said, 'Take the arrows,' and the king took them. Elijah told him, 'Strike the ground.' He struck it. He struck it 3 times and stopped. The man of God was angry with him and said, 'You should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times. Then you would have defeated Aram and completely destroyed it. But now you will defeat it only 3 times.' Elijah died and was buried." Really striking the ground, especially for right now, is important. I love this scripture because it's talking about arrows. Our logo is a broken arrow. That's the mass unit is our logo represents a
broken people helping other broken people.
Yes. And so what we're going to be doing on August the 7th and the 8th, but I really want to talk about the 8th, is on August the 8th, we're going to have 8 speakers. This is only 3, but 8 speakers share some 8 sermonettes, a sermonette each for 8 minutes. And we're going to broadcast this. We're going to be doing this live right here on Club Judah Returns. And and so we're going to be sending out some information to invite everybody to come and hang out with us. On the 7th as well, we're going to be having Club Judah artists, people that have been through Club Judah, share some of their music and some of their testimonies. And we'll be sharing videos and music and kind of setting the atmosphere for August 8th. We're getting it together, and it probably in a matter of a few days, we're going to start sending out some material advertising this. I'm really excited about it. I think that, for those that don't know, need to know how much of an influence Club Judah was. And so on the 7th, we would invite you guys to join us for
and how much it still is.
Yeah.
And this is a great example of adapting to the new normal. We used to get together every Saturday night, showcase some of our new music, and now we're meeting like this. And it's all right. If this is how we got to meet. Let's just meet like this.
Every Saturday? Was it every other?
I felt like it was every Saturday.
It sure
maybe
did
not
feel
so
like
much.
it.
Every
Saturday.
It seemed like it was pretty consistent to me.
Yeah, every Saturday from July, first weekend of July 2003 until I believe it was November of 2015. 15. Every Saturday night, which was really over 600 nights, over 600.
Whether there was anybody there or not.
Rather not.
We had great times there. Great times, great memories. And so August the 7th and August the 8th, we're going to be getting together. And I'm certain that people will see this as it continues to play on certain pages. And so we want to just encourage you guys to be on the lookout for the advertisements for these couple of events.
Yep. The 8th month, the 8th day at 8 p.m., 8 speakers for 8 minutes.
8 speakers for 8 minutes.
Yeah, worldwide move to return. Strike the ground, and worldwide call for to return to holiness.
That's right.
You heard it here first. Anything else anybody wants to say?
You guys can follow us at MMT_TMU, and the name of our company.
That's on Instagram, by the way.
It's Instagram. Yeah. The name of our company is The Mash Unit, and that's spelled with an A, THA, Mash Unit. And like if you feel led to sow a seed into the Mash Unit, you can do that freely, but it's not a 501c3. we set it up like an LLC, being obedient to God. He said to do it that way. So so you'd have to do that by faith. But that would be themassunit.org. And anything
you can find all of our music available on
share the new videos
on all of the downloadable or streaming platforms. We're everywhere. We're on Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music. And if one of the ways that you can support the ministry is by streaming or downloading the music. And so I would
And if
encourage
you
you
have a
to.
high school that in your area where you'd like us to bring one of our assemblies, we can do that too. There's all kinds of stuff we could do.
I would encourage you to. I would encourage you to do that with all the artists that you enjoy. This is a way of supporting those ministries so that you can continue to hear music that lifts the Lord up. Also, I'm just going to say, again, people that know us don't know that, because this is going on our artist page. There are a lot of people that follow us that don't know much about Club Judah. But what you need to know is that Club Judah was a very influential ministry back in the day in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so this is why we're here, and this is why I'm glad that you guys invited us to come on and hang out with you guys for a little bit. And so
because we are people that stay on our grind, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It don't even matter if the walk becomes a crawl. We will continue to just keep it moving, right, Pastor Colette?
Yes. And listen, there's not very many people that I call family. Really, there's not very many people. The scripture, there's many that started out with us.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's not that many that are still standing in holiness, still seeking to win souls at all costs, in holiness at all costs, seeking to truly be used of the Lord. Sister Trina, who we may know is Pastor David's sister, says, "Love to you all, Mr. and Mrs. Taylor." Yes, yes, she said, "Love to you all." But it is important to understand that holiness means something.
Absolutely.
It still does, and holiness recognizes holiness, and how can 2 or 3 or 4 walk together, but they agree, and we agree in the things of God. So I want to, I'll toss it back to you, Pastor David, since you are hosting, so you can thank them for coming and all that.
Hey, well, again, like I said, like as she said, you guys are family. I mean, to say that, I don't even want to say the OG part. You're family.
Amen.
So it is a joy to have you back here again. I somehow don't think it'll be the last time.
I hope not.
So again, but I want to thank you for joining us once again. And hey, stay cool in Arizona.
Okay. We will. All right, guys.
All right.
Good night.
Pleasure.
Love and peace.
All right.